Salutations friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be responding to comments and questions. I don't think this video is going to be crazy long. I don't have that many comments to go through because I did this video a few weeks ago, but I thought it would be fun to sit down and chat with you guys and respond to some comments and questions. So let's get into the video. First things first, if you are unfamiliar with what these videos are, I get a lot of questions and comments and commentary and continuations on discussions, topics, and debates, and I love to use these videos to just chat with you guys. So this is what these videos are, and I love doing them because I like chatting with you guys. So this is all about just sitting and talking. If you don't like my talking videos, then this is not the video for you. Number two is any opinions that I talk about, they are my own opinions. I am also not an expert or an authority or don't have any formal education or training. I am a fragrance enthusiast and a consumer. So if I talk about my thoughts on the industry, my thoughts on formula, my thoughts on how things should be done, know that it is coming from somebody who doesn't know anything. I have my own opinions, but that does not give me any real authority or experience. Some people prefer consumer reviews and some people prefer authority, education, and experience. And it completely depends on you guys. You can choose to believe or choose to hold with more weight somebody's opinion based on reviews or opinions or discussions. And just letting you guys know where I am. I'm a collector and a consumer. I am not a trained professional. I didn't go to school or I get any formal training. That doesn't diminish my opinion, but that definitely doesn't give me any more authority than people who work in the industry and have dedicated years to training themselves and understanding this industry more in depth and understanding how formulas are built and things like that. So if I tell you guys what I think, I just like to let you guys know where I'm coming from. Now, also, I can only speak for myself too. So if I talk about my thoughts on content creators and things like that, or if I talk about free bottles or sponsorships, I can only speak for myself. I don't know anybody else's business. And to be perfectly honest, I need to stay in my own lane. It's my own business is my own business. Anyone else's business is their own. But I do think that I have the right to comment on my community, which is the fragrance content creators, just like you guys have the right to comment on this community. You are as equal as a participant as we are. Just because we are putting our face to the camera doesn't mean that we have the right to speak over you guys, because anything that content creators have, we have because of you guys. Also, if I reference any videos, they will all be linked below. So the first thing I'm going to talk about, this I noticed on my haul video, which was, I think, yesterday's video. I usually, when I film these videos, I get them up the same day or the day after. The haul video, I noticed a lot of people talking about this, or a few people mentioning this, and I wanted to kind of reiterate what I mean, and I will, when I review this fragrance, I will talk about it. And it was on Symphonium. Now, also, real quick, you're gonna notice I'm missing 2 fingernails. I was gardening, and my gardening gloves knocked off my nails, so my hands are looking real weird today, so just, I'm sorry. But Symphonium is a very much beloved and hyped fragrance, specifically within the Zerjoff universe, specifically within like gourmand luxury fragrance lovers on the YouTube platform. And I love Symphonium. I bought Symphonium. I bought this from Fragrance Buy, so I did get a really, really good deal, and I do share in a previous video my favorite places, gray market sites. Again, I'll link that video below. But this is a fragrance I could have easily spent full retail price on, but if I don't have to, I don't. And the one thing I will say is not every reviewer does this, but this is not a safe blind buy at all, at all. This is a beautiful chocolate orange fragrance, but it is not a chocolatey, creamy, gourmand fragrance that is easy to wear and safe to buy. And there's a lot of conflicting notes in this. So there's a mandarin in here, and mandarin on some people can be very sharp, very green, very pithy, somewhat bitter. And there's nothing wrong with that. As you guys know, I love a mandarin note, and I like the clarity that it adds to this fragrance. But there's also oud in here as well. And I love oud, and the oud in here Sometimes in some fragrances, houses will tame an oud and it will take away some of the intimidating, challenging aspects of what oud is. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that those are great introductory ouds. You can really dive into and enjoy a lot of what oud has to offer without the challenging, intimidating, funky bits of it. And do not get me wrong, I love a funky oud, a barnyardy oud. Not everybody loves it. And I'm going to kind of get into that a little bit at the end of this, because I do want to talk about what I mean when I talk about fecal and ammonia-esque notes, because that is pertinent to this conversation. However, Zerjoff doesn't shy away from some of the more challenging and intimidating kind of characteristics or nuances of oud, and that is definitely present in this fragrance. It is not front and center, but it is in the background just enough to add a nice layer of something special, something different, something unique. And I love that. And that's why I think this fragrance is so special. As somebody who loves oud and enjoys challenging ouds, I think that it adds something to this fragrance that makes it more elevated and more special. And I like the mandarin in here too. And there's a lot of different notes in this scent that also go into the composition and the formula of it. And when I review this fragrance, I'm going to break it down for you guys more. But what I mean is when a lot of people were reviewing this fragrance, when they were talking about this scent, they were really only focusing on the chocolatey orange notes in this, which are beautiful, and it's creamy and it's sexy and it's enticing and mysterious and delicious. But if you skip over or you try to appease your crowd by not mentioning the fact that there is a little bit more of a funkier note in here, people are going to spend a lot of money on a bottle of perfume and be unhappy because not everybody likes oud. A lot of people, even the more tamed ouds, hate it, and that's totally, completely okay. And oud is one of those polarizing, challenging notes that I always know that somebody is going to be on my videos and say, I hate oud, I don't understand why people like that. And I think that that's completely okay. I love it, and I think it's what makes this fragrance, in my opinion, something special, something elevated, something beautiful, something fun to wear, and something I've wanted in my collection. But it is also what makes this fragrance different enough to not be a safe blind buy, especially at this price point. Because even though I bought this on sale, I still paid almost $300 for this bottle on sale. That is a lot of money for a bottle of perfume. And if I paid almost $300 for this bottle on sale, full retail price for this size is $650. That is a lot of money, a lot of money. So I think it's important to talk about how a fragrance smells, and sometimes I do have to remove my biases from a composition, and sometimes, yes, I blindly like a lot of things, and a lot of people be like, you like everything, and yes, I do, but that doesn't mean that I should ignore things that I know people have problems with. And that's why when I hauled this, I was like, I love it, but I don't understand why people don't mention the oud, because some people will use that as a reason to purchase it because they want something different and special. Because if they're gonna spend that much money on something, they could find a creamy orange fragrance a lot cheaper, or somebody's gonna say, well, I want to find a delicious creamy orange luxury fragrance, and then they purchase this and they smell it and they're like, I hate this on my skin, it smells disgusting. So when I review this, I will get into it. I think it's a great fragrance. I wore it yesterday, it was my scent of the day. Absolutely gorgeous. I crave this fragrance. However, it is not a safe blind buy, and I know a lot of people were mentioning on my channel, I purchased it and there was something about it, I hate it. I'm glad I got a sample of it. I purchased it and I was not expecting it to smell the way that it did, and I just kind of wanted to add more of an emphasis on this, because I know that this was and is one of the more hyped fragrances from the house of Zerjoff. Not a super hyped fragrance, but when people think of a sexy gourmand from the house of Zerjoff, this is one of them that people get excited for. And I think it's important to shine a light on, this is not a safe blind buy. And I wouldn't recommend blind buying any of the fragrances from Zerjoff because they're very expensive, but I would feel so much more safer, say, you know, blind buying Lyra or blind buying, you know, Italica if you're looking for a gourmand. Not this one. Not this one. Now, to kind of segue, I don't know if that's the right word, into this, one thing I've been doing recently has been trying to get healthier. I know I haven't been feeling too well. Going out and gardening and like ripping off my fingernails isn't, the gardening part is excellent. I'm trying to turn my yard into Alice in Wonderland type of garden. But I've been walking around the botanical gardens where I live. So I live in Gainesville. There's the Kanapaha Botanical Gardens. I try to go there all the time. There's an area that's more sunshiny, and then there's an area that's a little bit more dense and wooded. And I was walking with John, and we were talking. We talk about a variety of different things, projects that we're working on, just life in general. And we were walking through the dense, and it had rained the day before. And there's a lot of animals, and there's a lot of like lush ground coverage and leaves. And you know, when leaves get wet and they start to rot, you smell that smell. And we're walking past this area, and I stop, and he's like, why are you stopping? Because we're like walking for exercise. And I was like, do you smell that? And he smelled the air, and the air smelled fecal and a little bit ammonia-y. And I started then talking to him for like an hour, and he was like, please shut up about, this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about fecal and ammonia-esque notes in perfumery. And I had somebody ask me like, what is what fecal notes? And when you go to nature, when you go to the natural decomposition of roughage and products and things and foods and berries and just things kind of decomposing and returning to earth or going through your intestinal tract or animal's intestinal tract, there's different chemicals that are released that have these kind of smells. And I want to do an entire video talking about this, but I don't know if I have the right amount of information. But when I think of a fecal note in a fragrance, like a fecal oud, or almost like when people talk about a fragrance being kind of cat pissy, I'm not thinking about somebody like a rest stop restroom, you know, that didn't like flush the toilet, or a cat litter box. I'm actually thinking about being outside and almost the decomposition of nature around you, because it does have a lot of those kind of same chemicals and aromas of the decomposition of the, you know, your food digesting and, you know, whatever's happening in a cat litter box. But it's a different experience. It smells more natural, and weirdly, I'm not saying it's going to smell more attractive, but it's a different smell. So when talking about like fecal notes, and when talking about cat pissing notes, and some of the more challenging notes in some fragrances that people tend to find very polarizing or not understand that people enjoy, I don't think people completely realize that when somebody's mentioning a fecal note, we're not talking about like poo. We're not talking about poo, but it's almost like the natural decomposition of like nature around you. And I find that smell to be something that's very, I'm not going to say appealing, but it's interesting. So when I'm walking through this botanical garden, this specific area, I'd say it's like a quarter mile. You know, it's like this whole walk is like 2 miles. Maybe a little less than 2 miles, so it's not very long at all. But this one area that's specifically dense and wooded and filled with leaves, and there's so many mosquitoes. I'm looking on my legs. They bite me through my clothes. I've got like 30 mosquito bites on my legs right now. That's real bad. I am like they get so excited when I come because it's like a buffet. But this area smells green and lush. And some fragrances, some natural perfume brands, Olympic Orchids, Tropic of Capricorn, that fragrance, I talk about sometimes when fragrances will have those notes of fruits where it smells like the fruits are on the ground and they've been on the ground a little bit too long, and they've turned a little bit, or overly indolic white florals where they smell slimy and very concentrated. And some people don't like that. Some people like fresher, more alive scents, not so much concentrated and decomposing scents. But the thing is that there is something beautiful about the smell of specifically balanced decomposition. So some people don't like the smell of compost, but some people I know who do a lot of gardening and farming, they just love the smell of compost. They think it smells like nature, and it smells like crops, and it smells like harvest, and there's something about it that's alive. They like the smell of dirt. They like the smell of the woods after the rain, when all the leaves that have been dry and on the ground are now kind of like a little bit starting to rot a little bit. And that smell is the smell of nature. And nature can be bright, it can be grassy, it can be dry, and it can be damp, it can be moist, it can be vegetal, it can be earthy. It can be a variety of different ways. And when I think of a fecal or an ammonia-esque note in a fragrance, I'm not looking for at all. I do not want at all a cat litter box. And I don't want at all like a restroom that needs to be cleaned desperately. What I want is the feeling of nature, the nuances of specific woods and specific notes as they are in different stages of, their lifespan. Agarwood and oud are, hand in hand. They smell completely different. You could have a grape note in a fragrance, or you could have a wine note in a fragrance. Having that kind of slightly decomposing, almost fermented smell in a scent can add something. Not everybody is going to want that and like that, and that is totally okay. But I myself love that, especially when it is properly represented, balanced, and presented in a fragrance. And so when people talk about these more funky, more fecal notes in perfume, they're not talking about notes that smell like something that came out of the behind of you. What they're talking about is these more different stages of nature and how the decomposition and the breaking down of woods and leaves and vegetal and dampness and moistness, how that smells. And that does, again, release specific chemicals that might, smell kind of like something else. So it might be very similar, but it's very different. And it kind of hit me when I was walking down there the other day, which is why I wanted to bring this up, was that when you walk through something like nature and you smell that smell, it doesn't smell out of place. It doesn't smell bad. It's transportive. You smell like you're in someplace dense and botanical and moist and earthy. You smell like there's piles of leaves around you that maybe are starting, like underneath, are starting to decompose a little bit. And that pond over there, maybe some of those big shield leaves have fallen in there and they're starting to kind of rot. You're smelling nature, and sometimes nature smells like roses and sometimes nature doesn't smell like roses. But you're not smelling like anything that smells like a decomposing corpse or a decomposing animal or an animal that went to the bathroom. You're smelling woods and leaves and dirt and moistness in the air. And that will translate to something maybe a little bit ammonia-ish or a little bit fecal. And when I'm looking towards fecal notes, or when I see or smell, not see, please don't, I don't want to see anything fecal. When I smell notes in perfumes that have a bit of a more turned smell to them, I want it to be more reminiscent of nature. That's why I like indolic florals. I like the idea of florals that have kind of fallen off the bush and are on the ground and kind of slimy. I love the way that smells. That concentrated smell to me is very attractive. Not everyone's gonna like it. I do. I like earthy, damp, vegetal, concentrated smells. Not everyone does. I do. And so by design, I enjoy those more funky, woody scents that do kind of mimic these more challenging notes. Specifically, oud is a great one because a lot of people definitely relate that to something that smells fecal. And so people are like, why would you want to smell fecal? It's not that you are smelling like poo. It is very much like this note, these chemicals. This smell is a part of nature, a part of the ecosystem, and some people like the fresher, brighter, prettier side, and I love that too, but I also like the damper, deeper, darker, you know, denser side of it as well. And I think that's, you know, kind of why I like everything, but that other side is more challenging, and I don't think there's anything wrong with people questioning wanting to smell like that, because it can be a little bit questionable. But when balanced correctly, and when you have the right notes, the right ingredients, the right nose who understands how to balance and celebrate that, you can have some of the most beautiful fragrances out there. They're really gorgeous. So I did kind of want to talk a little bit about that and my thoughts on that. But again, remember, I'm a consumer. I'm not an expert. The next question is on an older video. This was my House of Matriarch collection. And this is from Javon Eldridge, and their comment is, or their question is, hi there, I know this video is old now. Can you share the longevity on Toka Tatao? Which one lasts the longest? They have a good deal on 16 mil. I know I'm way late to this, but Toka Tatao actually has some pretty good longevity. It depends on the time of year though. So in the summertime, I get 4 to 6 hours. When I first initially got it, it didn't last as long. That's because I lived in the tropics. So I used to live in Miami, Fort Lauderdale area, where it was even more swampy than it is up here in northern central Florida, where I live in Gainesville right now. So I would get like 4 to 5 hours, but now I can get up to like 6 to 8 hours when it's like not super humid. I get about, I would say though, comfortably recommending and saying 4 to 6 hours. That is such a decadent fragrance, even though it is more of a summer transportive tropical scent. You can wear it in fall, and in fall I do get longer hours, like 6 to 8. I would say the best longevity from any fragrance from House of Matriarch, Black Sheep, stays on my scent, on me forever. I get She, lasts forever, and Kiki too is one scent that, you know, lasts a good long while. But Toka Tatao is one that you get decent longevity for a natural perfume. It does have a really nice performance in regards to that, and it's a beautiful. So this is on my review of Amethyst from Lalique, and this is from I Am the Walrus. And this comment is, I love to hear how similar or different it is to Blackberry and Bay from Jo Malone. I love the fragrance, but generally don't love fruity scents, although sometimes they surprise me and work. Also, where else can you smell Lalique aside from Neiman Marcus? I've been intrigued by the line. I don't know where it is carried, and I'm not a blind buyer. I do know that So Avant-Garde sells samples, and I think that they sell samples of Lalique, so definitely check that out. I do have a coupon code. If they do sell samples, you can save 15% off. That is an affiliate code, but you know, it's a place you can get it. Or you can reach out. Sometimes if you reach out to customer service, sometimes they will send you samples. I am saying that as somebody who's reached out to customer services on websites and been interested in fragrances, and on rare occasions through reaching out to their customer chat, I have gotten sent samples of fragrances sometimes, not all the times, but maybe reach out to the email of Neiman Marcus or any place that sells Lalique and maybe ask if they can send you a sample because you're interested in trying something. I'm not saying that they will, but it's happened to me once or twice, and that was not based off of anybody that I knew. That was just via their chat, like their, hey, I'm interested in this, but I want to try it first. Sometimes they will send it to you, sometimes they won't. I don't know if they do. This was pre-pandemic that they did, so I don't know, but I've done that before. And sometimes they say no, and sometimes they say yes. That's just me guessing that maybe they might. So it doesn't hurt to ask. It would take 5 minutes to reach out to their customer service. How it compares to Jo Malone. If you do not like fruity fragrances, stick with Blackberry Bay. That is more aromatic, that is lighter, that's more fresh. Lalique Amethyst, it does have that kind of nice little kick to it. However, it smells way more fruity and like a pie than Jo Malone, Blackberry, and Bay. So if you were judging between the two, I would stick with Jo Malone's. It's lighter and fresher, and in my opinion, less fruity. There's a fruity component to it, most definitely a berry component, but there's a difference between like a berry note in something and then smelling like you slathered jam all over your body. And it's not so much like amethyst smells like that, but it smells more like that than blackberry and bay from Jo Malone. Last comment is on my last video that I answered comments and questions, and since I talked so much about fecal scents, I don't want this video to be too long. This is from Rack79, and their comment is, I'm interested in buying my first decant, but how would I go about that? I'm kind of nervous about ripoffs. There are a few places you can purchase decants. I will list them below. Anything I list below, aside from Max Aroma, those are going to be not affiliate links. The Max Aroma link, because they do sell pocket perfumes, that is an affiliate code. So just letting you guys know for transparency purposes. Any other place, link below is not affiliate. Just if you are so inclined, if you don't like using affiliate links, Max Aromas isn't. And if you want to shop at Max Aroma and not use my affiliate link, by all means, just type in maxaroma.com. You don't have to use mine. The best places to get decants, I think Crystal Fragrance is fantastic. You can purchase places like FragranceNet and again Max Aroma. Some of their scents have their pocket perfume travel atomizer service. You can definitely do that. If you are feeling particularly adventurous, I know that there are some people that have decant boutiques online. There are some that I purchased from that I will link below. Everything I've purchased from these places have been excellent, so I don't have an issue recommending them, but just remember that you're taking a risk because you're not purchasing from a licensed reseller, so purchase with caution. And then again, places like So Avant-Garde do sell samples, and sometimes the fragrance houses themselves will sell discovery scents and samples if you don't want to invest in a full-size bottle. So my recommendation would be Crystal Fragrance, the places like FragranceNet and Max Aroma that do sell the travel atomizers, and then maybe purchasing from places that have a good reputation. You can also sometimes find them on like Mercari or eBay. You gotta be very mindful of that. And sometimes Facebook fragrance groups will also do like decant sales or swaps or things like that. Just be very mindful about the people that you purchase from any of those places. Always check, I would say, like reviews, and just see the general amount of people's thoughts around particular sellers and swappers. You're always taking a risk in that situation, but I think that there's less of a risk in decants than full-size bottles. You might lose out on, say, $10 than like hundreds of dollars, but still, money is money, so always be mindful and careful. But again, like if you are very mindful, you can, instead of buying a decant, maybe purchasing from the house their samples, or sometimes if you reach out to the house. If it's a house that maybe doesn't have any samples, if you reach out, again, sometimes they might be very generous and send you a decant or sample or discovery set if you are willing to pay postage. It doesn't hurt to ask, but always understand that they can always say no, so don't be upset. Now, if they sell samples, they probably won't send you anything for free, but it doesn't hurt to ask if they don't sell samples, or if they don't sell a discovery set, or if you're only interested in one scent, you can always reach out and ask. So also Lucky Scent sells samples. That's another great place. Their samples are on the smaller side, but that is another place where you can get authentic samples. You're not going to get a lot. You're going to get a very small amount, but it's enough to try and maybe decide if you're willing to invest in a bottle or maybe a larger decant someplace else. So that's what I recommend, and again, I'll list everything below. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, I know it's a little bit on the stranger side since I talked way too much about fecal things in the beginning of the video, but I did want to talk about that a little bit. And if you do want me to do a video kind of really discussing that note and showing it in its good representation, and maybe it's not so good representation, let me know in the comment section below. As always, guys, I hope you're all happy and healthy and have a great day, month, year, whatever, and I will see you next time. Bye!